So I guess we're going to space, so... Okay, here's Dr. Wily. Final boss time. Nothing new to say here. I need to destroy his cannons first. And his weak point is on the right. Oh, you can actually destroy the turrets. That's something new. I could get back down over there, but it's a lot more risky. There's a chance of me falling into a pit after all. Background's kind of distracting as well. And I should be using this instead. Whoops. So whenever he has one of his cannons or turrets up, he'll be shielded. Remember though, the Gemini laser is an optional weapon. If you had to do this normally, you would have to use either the metal blade or the regular buster. Oh wow, he has even more turrets types, and yeah, he's going crazy. He's low on health after all. The MIDI remix of this final boss team isn't that bad. No point in not using them now. In fact, might as well just use the mech suit. The Gemini laser is just so broken for this boss battle as it pierces through the enemy guards. Oh no. Okay, this boss battle suddenly got a lot harder. Because now the easy platforms are disappearing. I guess Fire Wave? Oh no. Alright, here's what I need to do. I need to keep flipping between gravity on the right side of the screen and destroying the cannons that way. Or just use a Gemini laser, that works too. But the platforms are much smaller and I need to keep jumping on them, otherwise I'll fall into a pit and be forced to restart this boss battle from the very beginning. But I'm not complaining, this is the final boss encounter, I just wished it wasn't actually a bottomless pit though. It does bounce off of these platforms though, which is a bit different. Just how many E-tanks do I have by this point? I really wish we had the counter from Mega Man 3D and 3D 2, where they explicitly tell us the number. What happened? I was trying to jump there and suddenly it fell off. So I'm sent all the way back. let's try this final boss encounter once again. If you use the teleporter just before this final boss battle, and you're running low on E or L tank stock, just quit the game and restart from there. You'll start with all the L and E tanks you had before you started this boss battle. I still find this boss battle to be fun, I just wish it didn't take place over a giant bottomless pit. And this is only one of two bosses in this game that actually has multiple phases. The first phase you have to worry about two cannons, the second phase you have to worry about those meteorites pelting you, in the third phase the machine starts attacking you with elect beams, and in the fourth and final phase, which I'm in right now, you have to jump on top of these platforms, some of which have spikes on top, swap gravity, and hit the cannons like before. Thank goodness I have access to the Gemini laser, otherwise this would be so much more painful. It's over. And I never actually saw that Wily machine before, so it is unique. It was probably modified. With Dr. Wily defeated, the city systems have been rebooted and returned back to normal, and life continues on as normal. Mega Man is once again a hero. Dr. Wily is literally dead, never to be seen again. Honestly, I don't believe Dr. Wily is dead. I believe he's just hiding and used the explosion as a way to buy time for his next attack, although from what I've heard, he never reappears in this game's sequels. Nevertheless, that marks the end of this game. I'll probably end up splitting this part into two, as the first part is probably going to be at least 20 to 25 minutes long. With all that said and done, here are my overall thoughts on Mega Man and Megacity as a whole. First off, I'd like to revisit my earlier statement that this is a Metroidvania or Metroidvania-styled fan game. It barely fits that definition. The only mandatory items required in this game are the following: the lifting gyros, the crash bombs, and the gravity module. Along the way, you'll also acquire the metal blade, quick suit, freeze ray, 3 life upgrades, and 2 energy upgrades. That is, assuming you don't skip past the bosses on the required route. And there's barely any backtracking required. The only instances where backtracking is required is in case you decide to go to the left early before getting the lifting gyros, going to the reactor earlier, as well as returning back to the elevators once activating the reactors. But once you go to the upper half of the city, backtracking disappears almost entirely. Unless, of course, you are going for 100% completion, which I did. Now, as for what I liked about this game, I liked the variety of tools, suits, and weapons that you can acquire. For instance, the quick suit increasing your mobility and jump height, the power suit and hard suit increasing your offense and defense respectively at the cost of decreasing your mobility, the energy suit regenerating energy over time, etc, etc. Sadly, there weren't enough various scenarios to use all of them. This was especially the case with the fire suit, where its ability to make you immune to all fire-based and lava-based attacks was immediately rendered obsolete as there were no fire enemies afterwards, even during the fortress levels. If I decided to go and defeat Flame Man first, it'd be a lot more useful. At the very least, all other suits have their time to shine, with the exception of probably the Mega Suit after you acquire the Fire Suit, as there's no reason to equip the Mega Suit from there on, as equipping the Fire Suit has absolutely no downsides, and the Mega Suit has absolutely no upsides or downsides either. I also like how all the bonus bosses located off the beaten path not showcased on the map all had tangible rewards. Stone Man had the Power Booster, the Golden Centennial had the Energy Suit, and Breakman had the Mech Suit. And all of them were suitably difficult, although I'm not sure if all their attacks are dodgeable, especially in the case with the Golden Centennial and Breakman encounters. The variety of weapons were fun to use as well. My usual go-to weapons were the Flame Shot, the Metal Blade, the Spine Shot, as well as sometimes the Bubble Spray. Yet most of the other weapons were perfectly usable. Same with the tools. I got the most mileage using the floating platforms, the Power Booster, as well as the Emergency Safety Tool. Not to mention the Intangibility Drive, when I was looking for the remaining L and E tanks, as well as during one of the final sections in the Wily Prison Satellite levels. I didn't really use the other tools as much though, as I wanted to conserve my weapon energy. Nevertheless, there are plenty of combinations of weapons, tools, and suits that you can use to fit your playstyle and adapt to the situations at hand. I will say though that using a combination of the Gemini Laser, Mech Suit or Power Suit, and the Power Booster is quite broken, especially against some of the larger enemies like the Guts Dozer and the final boss encounter. The final boss encounter would be so much more difficult if I didn't have access to the Gemini Laser. Then again, you could also use a safety booster as well, so you wouldn't have to worry about the bottomless pit as much. Now, as for what I didn't exactly like about this game or found to be subpar, let me first start with the physics. This game has absolutely no tiptoeing. Combined with the fact that Mega Man moves much faster than usual, segments with precise spike dodging are significantly harder. See the lower part of the living deck, for example, as well as some of the segments in the waterworks. Collision detection was also off in some areas, which meant that you could get stuck in walls and icy environments due to the increased speed. And even outside of areas without ice, it's still possible to clip into walls, forcing you to slide out of them or swap gravity. In fact, when on icy environments, running through them was quite unwieldy. This was especially the case in the Wily Satellite stages. Another major problem about this game is that the difficulty balancing is off until the optional and fortress bosses. Many bosses are just too easy to deal with. Later bosses do have greater than 20 HP, but by then it's a bit too late. And even if they have more HP, until we get to the fortress bosses, they're rather easy to dispatch of because their patterns are so straightforward. Not to mention, the fortress bosses, until the final boss, have a reverse difficulty curve. The Guts Dozer was the hardest one, and Breakman in the Jet Ski or Jet Rider, he was the easiest one. The boss battle immediately following is a bit tougher though, and certainly unique, a nice spin on the original boss encounter. Another issue is that most of the gimmicks are not first introduced in safe environments. Oh sure, every zone has at least one gimmick that makes it a bit unique, but it assumes you already encountered these gimmicks before, even if they were first introduced in this game. Adding to this problem is that most of the levels are just too small. They should be at least twice as big. This is especially a problem in the reactor, the upper half of the city, as well as the Wily Prison Satellite levels. It kinda made the satellite levels a bit disappointing. There was also a general lack of polish across the board. For instance, spelling errors, inconsistencies with names, and text not fitting into the text boxes. Not to mention all the errors with throwing blocks, and one problematic screen transition in the fortress resulting in a death loop. Like I mentioned at the beginning, this game barely fits the definition of a Metroidvania. The world should have been larger and more interconnected, and less linear, especially in the upper half. In the lower half of the city, there was some non-linearity. In fact, it was quite open, with only 2 necessary items being required, but following that it became very straightforward, very linear. I don't mind the linearity in the Wily Prison Satellite levels, but preceding that, it should have been much less linear. From what I've heard, this problem was fixed in Mega Man 3D 2, although that game takes a more open world feel. Most of the game felt optional as well. Because of that, there was less reason to backtrack, unless we wanted to get all the weapons and tools and suits and or want the L and E tanks. This was fixed in Mega Man 3D and Mega Man 3D 2, where the life and energy upgrades are scattered across the world. You don't just get them by defeating certain bosses like here. It's certainly more challenging and less straightforward. On a related note pertaining to the sequels, Mega Man's physics were fixed there. These are just my major gripes about this game. If I decided to go into the minutiae, I'd probably spend at least 10 more minutes on this ending. In short, this game is very rough, very flawed, but has some neat ideas. I'd like to see a remake of this title done, using a more capable engine. At its very best, this game is okay. It's just there's too many problems and lack of polish that bring it down. Thanks for watching my Let's Play of Mega Man and Megacity, viewers. If you enjoyed this Let's Play, please rate, comment, and or subscribe, as they all help out the channel. Don't forget to follow me on Twitter as well, as I regularly post updates there. Once again, I thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next Let's Play.